I love it. I love it. Now you built up the company. Let's talk about um, how'd you scale it up, right? So you pivoted. You ended up here. You realized you had an asset. You realized that there was a change in the market that needed what you were initially setting up. So how'd you scale up? Did you start getting clients using that money, funneling it back into the company to hire more
Yeah.
people? Like how did you build the company from there?
So in May of 2016, I actually was still in San Diego at the time. I was driving up. But in May of 2016, we closed a new investor for like $110,000, I think. And then we were able to build on the momentum of that round and bring in an additional 350,000. So we had a little bit of some cash to play with. God, there are some really entertaining stories in here. So at least by my standards, but wow, some brutal experiences. So we had this cash, and so I was able to bring on a CTO who, good friend, and who was with us for 3 years, named John Hall. This guy had co-founded like one of LA's top startups. So he's a rock star developer, somebody people wanted to work for, and was a linchpin moment for our company to like legitimize us, because it was me, my co-founder, and like a kind of just some general staff, but no real technical talent. And when we got John, everything kind of took from my ideas around scale to becoming reality. And so we brought him on. He was amazing. He was down for the like the whole startup experience, even though his company had raised $100-something million that he had left 6 or 7 months earlier. He's just a builder, like down to work out of a garage. And we were working out of an abandoned house in Santa Monica. Um, Again, not necessarily the best call, honestly, because we spent a lot of time like fixing things. But a friend of mine was staging houses scheduled for demolition for Airbnb, and this one was too screwed up for him to stage and rent out. So my now wife and I, once we moved to LA, because we had gotten a little bit of that cash, and before we were at this house, we were working on my kitchen table. And I think there were 5 or 6 of us at the time. So my wife and I just spent 2 weekends in a row, probably putting 24 hours in each weekend, just overhauling the thing. Redid the floors, redid this, like installed fans in the ceilings, redid some of the bathrooms. We just cranked. We went to IKEA, made it cute and cool, cleaned it up because it was filthy. Anyway, so the team that we had came that, hey, this is cool. It's homey. It's goofy. It's a 1920s house. And what just blows my mind is that this guy, John, who had come from a 200-person office on Ocean Boulevard, walked into this place and was like, I'm home. Like what was his deal? I don't know. But I didn't know it was that lame. I was kind of like, WeWork wasn't really around yet. So, I mean, they were starting, but we could have done a WeWork, and we probably should have. So anyway, we're in this abandoned house. It had all types of problems. The ceiling caved in at one point. A fire started in the backyard. There was an electrical fire. The sewer overflowed 3 times.
Oh my
It was
God.
freaking the electrical. John, we could not run the microwave and the space heater at the same time because it would blow the whole place. So somebody was always freezing if anybody was trying to cook, and it's like
So
whatever. It's
so you
ridiculous.
got the CTO on board, right? That kind of validated you. That
Mm-hmm.
gave you the maybe the confidence to be like, okay, we can take this to where I really wanted to, where I really envisioned it to. How'd you do that? What were the steps?
So the steps were to um, we were building a marketplace, and I don't think we really understood it at the time. So we knew we needed to get more users, which was a series of kind of guerrilla tactics to acquire additional users on the platform. We were doing Facebook ads. We had built a referral program into the system. We needed to build our own media outlets, so we were building our audience on Instagram ourselves. So we got into the hundreds of thousands with our own Instagram account, which was actually a meme account, which were super popular back then. That was driving tons of traffic and some additional strategies. So we were always balancing how many users we had and the metrics around open rates, click through, and opt in. So people who wanted to take part in these campaigns with the volume of brands that we had in the pipeline, or that were coming, or that were live, that we needed to service. So it was kind of this constant balancing or plate spinning between these two these two forces at work in our organization. So we needed to build a stronger revenue profile. Heartbeat has always had a challenge with fundraising around VCs that are very focused on SaaS and repeatable revenue, because is a marketplace with revenue that looks on paper like service revenue, which is much harder to get funding around, especially when SaaS was taking off in 2017 and 2018 like it was. But we need to get on the scene. We need to get validated. So that meant working deals that might not have been as economically exciting, but got the right brands in our roster. That we did a campaign with Amazon really early on that had some really wild things going on with it. We worked with Goop. We worked with a lot of really awesome brands, and then we put them into the deck. And when we were doing presentations, we had that kind of network effect of, oh, if this smart brand is doing it, then it's something that I should look at more closely. That we used at Mogul. Back in the day, it was get the biggest restaurant on board in town that everybody looks up to, give them the deal of a lifetime, and then use it in every pitch you do.
Yeah, it's a lost leader tactic, right? You lose on them, but they lead you into the other clients.
Yeah, and it worked great. It worked great in both companies. So we did a deal on Amazon at the end of 2016. That was super crazy, but got us an amazing name brand. We told everybody we knew about that. It started leading to some bigger brand opportunities, and also led us to the Techstars program. And then Techstars was also another turning point for us. I can't recommend that program enough. It took us from a goofy group of people in a abandoned house and made us one of the top 10 startups in LA. And from a growing like pre-seed perspective. And that program introduced us to like 100 awesome mentors who were the who's who of media, entertainment, and technology in Los Angeles. It got us incredible exposure to people who could make intros, who could help us think more strategically about what we were doing and how we were presenting this, and get better sales, and improve our sales conversion and hire better. And so we worked out of the Techstars office for, I think we moved in early. So we were probably there in May, and then we didn't leave till December. So we stayed a little bit longer too. And that was great. So going about building was really understanding what our customers didn't have that we could build for them. And for us, that was quick access to in a do-it-yourself type setting, like a self-serve setting, to a large group of consumers who are interested to promote on Instagram, but also in discovering new products. And trying to understand more about what are these people, these consumers who are right now, they don't have an app. They're just waiting in their email inbox for an opportunity to do these things. And we had built this back-end apparatus to control it all, but there was no app. So we knew we needed an app. We launched our consumer app in 2017 during Techstars. We actually didn't have a B2B dashboard until Techstars. We launched that as well, which was obviously a hit, table stakes for technology companies, brands spending money. And then in 2018, we spent a good part of the year designing out our self-serve product, which is a very advanced product, which is now like a big part of our revenue stream, and we have hundreds of clients on it. We designed it out all of 2018, did a ton of feedback with customers. We were on the phone with them constantly. Look at this. How do you feel about that? What would you change about this? How much would you pay for that? And then we launched that product in 2019. So learned a lot about patience, because these things take a long time to do and to do right. But yeah, we can get into more specifics too. So I was kind of
let's talk about. I know it's all fantastic. Let's talk about like methods on how you run your business. So on a cultural side, on a just how do you manage the workflow? How do you manage your teams? And how does that all apply to hiring, right? So when you hire somebody, what's that process like? Every entrepreneur has a different process, but let's talk first about how do you manage the work and the tasks at hand in your business? Like it's from top down, how do you do it?
Well, I've gotten better about it, I think. I've learned a lot about that. I mean, I had a little bit more of a probably too controlling an attitude about getting things done. It drove the business forward at a breakneck speed, but it also was burning people out. So I made a decision last year to have the entire team report to my general manager, who reports to me. And then I have a dotted line, like very close relationship with our product team. So what that allowed us to do is, and my GM has a fantastic background in management, been managing people for the last 35 years. And, I've only been managing people for the last 5. And a lot of that was coincided with entrepreneurial CEO stuff, raising money, dealing with problems, product design, branding, all that stuff. So you're not full-time management. So I had to become really honest with myself of where I was failing the company by not being the most mature manager possible. Invest in learning that about myself and improving that about myself, and then also empowering others to do the things that maybe I was falling down on, but focusing on the things that only I can do. There are things that the CEO can only, he or she can do those things. And if you're up in the weeds of one of your team members who's not getting a design right because you're a perfectionist or you've got this key vision or something, and you're going straight to them instead of their manager who reports to you or something like that, you're doing so much more damage to the company than you realize that you're doing. To you, you feel like you're building a relationship with that individual. To them, you're ruining their day and potentially 3 more days after that, making them feel unempowered, things like that. And these are things I had to learn. I had to learn the hard way. So I think as a CEO especially, but any manager, your team's vibe all comes from you. So if you're on a Zoom call, now we're all on Zoom calls only, and you're looking down and bummed out, the team's going to know, and they're going to think something's up. If you're over exuberant and acting super cracked out all the time, they're going to be like, yeah, that guy's all over the place. Like he's excited about everything. I don't know what our direction is. If you're not articulating, the vision consistently and talking about how you believe in your staff and how you're empowering people and calling people out, but more importantly, taking a step back and letting them do that, then if you're not doing those things, then you're not going to be helping your team. So, so I think it all kind of starts with the leader to understand his or her place in the organization and where they truly add the most value, and then work closely with your most senior management staff in order to realize that for the rest of the company. Another decision that I think I made that I'm really happy I did is I ended up joining a Vistage group here in Los Angeles. It's essentially a CEO, and then I know there's a CXO group as well. For us, my group, there's 15 of us. We're all CEOs, and every week we get together for a short period of time, and once a month we get together for a full day. And it's all about personal development. So we don't just talk about business. Sometimes we talk about family, but it's all about how to improve how you work within your company, realizing your strengths, problem solving, and leaning on the group to help you solve those issues. And one of the biggest mistakes entrepreneurs can make, whether you're a COO, a co-founder, a CEO, or a technical co-founder, is trying to figure it all out yourself. So I know I'm not directly answering it, but I think it's more of a philosophy. Like if you don't assume you have all the answers and you look elsewhere to improve yourself and can translate those things back in your business is going to be better for it. So I think it all kind of stems from that kind of curiosity, being open to new ideas from the top, and then empowering that in your staff. So on a kind of a very specific level, we now try and do more in-group check-ins with the management team and kind of have a consistent, fluid openness about the things that we're dealing with, the challenges we're facing, instead of any kind of one-offing where the one-offs are just not good necessarily. If especially if you're going to people who are underneath your key management team, and trying to build structure around building trust and being very open about when you're dealing with issues. There's a book called, 5 Dysfunctions of a Team that is an amazing book that goes through kind of this it's like written as an actual story, but it talks about this team. There's a new CEO that comes in, and she's got to overcome all these trust issues that are built into the team and get everybody on the same page. there's these kind of consistent actors in every organization, you know, the naysayer, the yes person, you know, these different, and knowing how to navigate when different people are fulfilling those roles at different times and getting everybody to trust each other is really important. So I know that's kind of a long roundabout answer, but yeah, there's some of the things you think about. Oh, I think you're on mute, Jimmy.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're back.
Oh, sorry. No, this is all great stuff. I trust me, we're here. We want to hear your story. We want to hear your insight. That's why we're here. And I want to talk about the current situation, COVID-19, everything that's going on. What's your take on that? Like, what are you? What are we? How are you dealing with it? And what do you think is going to be the next? How the next year is going to look for startups and founders and that whole ecosystem?
Yeah. So I think we've got to be vigilant about this. McKinsey just put out a great overview on this, a PDF, which I can distribute to you guys if you want to share it with the team after this. You've got to be ready for multiple different types of situations. Because I think one thing that we're all feeling is it's hard to predict the next day right now. And as a person who's carrying, in a way, your team members on your back as the financially, as the CEO, the buck stops with you. So if you're not caring about your team, like, I don't know what you're doing in the job. So it's tough on a daily basis to kind of wake up and open up the news and feel like, oh, Jesus, like this is totally different than 2 days ago. Like, so it just makes doing anything feel sometimes like, what's the point? And I think it's important for you to admit that to yourself. We had a call with the team on March 19th. We had $500,000 in business that was committed, just get pushed for 4 months, which, like, we were on track to do 3 times more revenue this year than last year. And coronavirus has adjusted that. We've had to adjust. But it was heart-wrenching for all of us who put so much effort into this stuff. And so we had to kind of acknowledge the way people's emotions, how people were feeling. I bet a lot of the people on the call have, if they're in management, have had conversations like this so far, or thought about having conversations like this. I think it's super helpful. It allows people to take a breath and go, it's not just me. Like, okay, like, they acknowledge how I'm feeling emotionally and how that may affect my job. And once you get past that part with your team, you need to start thinking about how you're going to plan for the future. And something the McKinsey article recommended was building modular teams around thinking about specific issues with specific time horizons. So do you have a working group that might be 2 people, might be 3 people, to think about customer support if you don't go back to the office within the next 3 to 4 months? What about working from home? How are your team members staying healthy and fit and active, and managing their time in a way that doesn't burn them out or have them mismanaging their time so much that they're missing deadlines consistently? What's the working group around that? Is your supply chain changing because of potential downstream effects? How are you thinking about, what are your contingency plans around that? So do you have a crisis team for making sure that you get the PPP loan? Who's handling that and making that something that everybody who needs to know knows about that? So at Heartbeat, me and my GM have a standing call every morning. That's now a habit that will probably go on for the remaining of both of our time here, where we talk about the biggest issues of the day, what happened yesterday, anything that we need to address, what's the latest with COVID, how are our clients responding to it? Did we learn anything from the previous day that we didn't know? Do we need to roll that out to our head of sales? Does she need to give us some feedback about something that's going to change what we're doing? How is our loan process looking? So I think it's staying vigilant every day.
Fantastic. Okay. And what do you, any last words or tools? You did mention the book, 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, which I'm going to download. I think this is going to be a good one. Any podcasts? Obviously, you mentioned Tim Ferriss and whatnot. So I know you read up on him. So any Any
So
assets or anything?
I got to give a shout out to Wondery. Their COO is in my Vistage group, but they make amazing content on podcasts. All the podcasts they do are great. Like if you know Dirty John or I forget that it's like they did one on Epstein, but my favorite is Business Wars. It's this episodic series around these different topics, usually two giant competitors, and sometimes they go back in time to like the 1800s and talk all the way through where they are today. They did one with Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts that's newer.
It's called Business Wars?
Yes, Business Wars.
Okay. And it's a podcast?
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's available on all podcasts. It's great. So I think, yeah. So I guess there's software. I mean, we are using 1 million, so I don't know where to start.
What do you use as your project management tool?
So we use a product called Monday.
Okay.
For that. Our product teams and product and dev uses Monday, and then our ops team uses Trello. So they both use different tools, and then we're highly embedded into the Google Cloud Suite.
What do you guys? What do you guys use on Tuesdays? I'm nice. I've been using that line Monday. It's like a drum roll. All right, so we're gonna go to Q&A. We're gonna start. Let's see what questions we have here. How would you put together a brand ambassador program today? Still best to go through college students and fraternities and sororities? No.
So I think you start with.
I actually asked that because
that's my good question.
Well, yeah, I wanted to. I mean, it was a fascinating story. I really enjoyed listening to your whole. I don't think we've had a speaker go in depth with like how they started and the different. That was amazing.
Yeah,
it's big for us too because we even have our own ambassador program for like the different cities that we're in, and our ambassadors do the interviews in the different cities. Obviously now with the events like going virtual, Jimmy and I are taking over most of them, but we've talked about it a lot. Like we're definitely as our app is getting released, we're going to be rolling out a whole and like college student ambassador program. So I wanted to get your thoughts on what you recommend now. Obviously your tool, like your company, like helps companies do this as well, right? So I'd love to talk about have you touch on that too.
Yeah, well, so Heartbeat's like core competency and where it's just better than everyone is our campaign management product for getting content produced on Instagram and TikTok. Like it is just, and having targeted groups do that for not as much money as maybe other competitors, but significantly less time. So that's where Heartbeat is just at the leader of the pack. There are some other really good tools out there for brand ambassador management. And I can share some of those afterwards. I'm just blanking on the name right now. But there are some good ones out there for just purely brand ambassador stuff. But if you're incorporating social, I think Heartbeat's a good win. And we've got our own network, so you can tap into that to pull down and build your own. But if I was starting a brand ambassador program today, let's say it was take a direct-to-consumer brand. Like this is we're going to pretend this is a new sunglass company.
Yeah,
I would build my brand ambassador recruiting funnel into all of my touch points. So I would have become an ambassador on the website, like in the top right corner. And then I would have a landing page that told about why it was cool. And I would set a far out there aspirational opportunity, like getting to work at the company. And that's going to be because this ambassador program could be a fantastic funnel for, somebody in the organization. But you set that out there, and then you don't just make it super easy to get in. But you don't make it so hard at the front that you don't capture their key information. So it's like a 2-step sign-up form. So first is email, phone, and maybe like their name. And then the next one's like, thanks for that. Like now tell us do. Because if you don't want to show them 10 things and then have them fall out of the funnel right at the first one, you want to get their contact info. And so then you use a product like MailChimp, which we built Heartbeat on MailChimp. And now it's just a supplementary product, but I just think it's amazingly flexible, and there's so much you can do with it, and it's fun to use. So you can build like two separate email flows after that. One for people that get to the second stage, and then you've got hey, we're looking at your profile, we're going to approve you, not. And the other one is, finish your thing if you want to do the thing.
Right.
So and then I'd have a whole drip program that discussed the opportunity, and I'd put it on time delays. In the beginning with Heartbeat, we started looking and reviewing people's profiles. Like in the early days, we actually did that. We found that was a very aspirational feeling for the user, that they were being reviewed and then approved. And so as we built the business up, we don't do this now, but during 2016, we left that in there. So even though thousands of people were coming in, we built a kind of an artificial time delay of 24 hours so that they felt like their profile was being reviewed and then unlocked, which created this like feeling of connection between the brand and the user that gave them more investment into the program. So you want to collect as much information as you can about people without being overbearing, but and then you want to have different types of ways to use the people who sign up that fits their personal interests. So like you kind of define that at the top of the funnel. So like, let's say, hey, we're looking for who makes a good Entre ambassador or sunglasses ambassador. People who, for sunglasses, would be like people who like to go outside, like to go hiking, or into whatever the brand of the sunglasses is. Yeah. And then you might be like, do you want to learn all the ins and outs of social media? And that's the social media brand ambassador track. Do you want to become a salesperson one day and like maybe use those people to like go out there and do lead generation at retail or something? Yep. So you want to try and build a program that attracts people with specific focuses, and then not dilute your own attention too much by trying to do everything. Mm-hmm. And then capture people who are really excited about stuff and like pull them into your inner circle, especially if they have personal resources that you can help them take advantage of and you'll benefit you. Big followings on social. They've expressed that they're like, very active in like the community of their college or something like that, where they can actually have some impact to improve things for you, and then experiment with them a little bit.
Gotcha.
Awesome.
Fantastic. What about how would you do? Because you mentioned a lot of like kind of your guerrilla marketing tactics and stuff. What would you do to get people to come to your site to start kind of filling out this application or, to sign up to be an ambassador? Are there any like strategies that you would use now versus when you started out?
It depends on if you have an existing email list or not.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have an existing email list, you announce the brand ambassador program to the existing list, and then try and pull people into the new list, and then reward people on the new list for getting people on that list.
Gotcha.
So like the Hustle, the Skim, Thrill List, any of these guys like all have reward systems for adding new people to the email list. So once you've got a seed, if you can like start to identify how much of that like initial group is going to take action, you just create reward systems and they'll pull people in. You could also do a partnership with another brand that has an existing email list. So you could do a swap. Hey, we'll promote you if you promote us. Yeah. A lot of companies have found success with doing that to build their initial email list. And then again, every touch point should have a link to the brand ambassador program. So if you send a weekly newsletter at the bottom, check out our brand ambassador program. Just think of it like how Candy Crush promotes the other games that it has. Yeah. same thing.
No, that's great. I think I'm getting at this because I think it's really important for anyone who's building any sort of brand to like understand this, and maybe not, even if they're not trying to build out a brand ambassador program, but understanding like different tactics to just like get people excited about a product or find different promotional ways to like get their product out there and get more people sharing it and creating that viral sense, and press, like you mentioned, as well, is huge. So I just wanted to ask that. I thought it was a really cool story. So thank you for sharing that.
Thanks. One other thing I'll mention that I have to make sure I say is one of the key things about a brand ambassador program is you have to reward you have to create winners. So like there need to be heroes in the program, and that needs to be a consistent reinforcement. And you could even use that to seed the group. Like, hey, let's say you have 5 brand ambassadors and they're all people who you know closely. One of them is your mom. Okay, well, who cares? You're not going to give your email list all the names of the brand ambassadors. You're just say, and ending our weekly newsletter, we just want to honor, whoever, Shayla Newsbury, who's like our ambassador of the week. Want to know more about our brand ambassador program? Click on this. And like, so we're like, whoa, like they have this? That's cool. I'm going to go explore that. Like and then you have to do that consistently. And then people will feel compelled to share on social and do that stuff. But you have to kind of visually reward them to the community.
Gotcha.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
The next question is, how has working remotely affected your business? How have you adjusted?
I think Heartbeat has experienced this with maybe less pain than other larger organizations or companies that aren't as used to working remotely. We had Slack built in our everyday workflow before this. Zoom was pretty consistently used, although it wasn't an interpersonal product. We were working out of a co-work space in Hollywood, so we did get to see each other a lot more face to face. I think we've just had to make sure to tell and remind the team members, like, don't just communicate with each other over email or Slack. Like, take the time to pick up the phone and have a one-to-one vocal or fire up a Zoom meeting, fire up a Slack call. Like, take the time to talk to your coworkers, and don't kill people with meetings, but take the time to have water cooler style conversations that aren't necessarily just work related. Like this is more advice, I guess, than for us. I mean, it wasn't that hard a transition. We were already pretty good at working. We had a pretty loose in the office policy. So if people need to work from home, they can work from home. We just made sure you get your work done. You over communicate if you're going to be out of pocket. And one of our developers has been in New York since 2017. So he's like one of our lead devs. So we're used to that. But we had a whole, like, one of our team members found a crazy YouTube video she had made about, the Jonas Brothers when she was like 10 years old or something. And we played that and put it on our team call last week, because it's hard to have those water cooler moments, to reconnect, to have fun, especially during these stressful times. I really encourage people to figure that out. I heard one guy, I don't know where I read this, probably LinkedIn, saying, setting up water cooler moments. So, this was from a Vistage group. So like, maybe you can have an open door policy for yourself, but do people know where they can go jump on a call together and just hang or just be live? And if somebody else wanted to come in and interrupt and just talk about stuff, just to keep that human connection, and you're not going to be bothered by that interrupt to your workflow. I invite people to try that, because it can get lonely right now, and that's something you want to try and avoid as much as you can, or try and mitigate.
And do you think with the virus and the outbreak, when things go back to, I wouldn't say normal, it's going to be a new type of normal, right? That's really what's going to happen. But how do you think that's going to affect your business? Do you think that you will have to make adjustments, 6 months down the line, or maybe 9 months down the line?
Well, I think right now we're making adjustments every day that we wouldn't we didn't have to think about before. I mean, I think you're going to have more remote teams more often, so people need to get better at doing presentations over video. We're not going to be able to go see our clients in LA like we used to. I just don't think that's going to come back that quickly. Yeah. I think so. That's just a light example, but I think brands may shift the way they think about advertising. I don't know how that's going to be yet, but I just have a hard time picturing everybody comes back and does everything the same way that they did it before from a marketing perspective. And we're just trying to roll the punches right now. We're just trying to be helpful as much as we can. Ask, make sure we're really approaching people when there's a true business need, or trying to find what that is. We're willing to be much more flexible than we were in the past. We kind of had our program, and we sold that program. Now we're happy to add services into the solution to help a brand overcome. Maybe they have less staff right now than they used to. There's nobody to run our software. So how can we help? Who can we introduce them to that does this? We're trying to embrace as much of a spirit of partnership as we can. We're leaning on partners now a little bit more than we would have in the past. And, that could be really cool. We're collaborating with local other agencies or people who don't have our solution and we don't have theirs, sending referrals back and forth more than we did before. So for us, we might see a stronger connection with local partners than we did in the past in terms of leveraging, having maybe a smaller sales team and a larger partner team, things like that. But I think the key is to just think about how, as this is affecting your business in major ways, are there opportunities to pivot to and make changes now, because you're in a situation that things aren't normal and there's nothing guaranteed. So that thing you were looking to do, to experiment with, I think you've got less to lose now if it's not a major capital expenditure or something. That's one of the McKinsey things is be ready to pivot. Be ready to do a different service offering if what you're offering no longer is needed, because there's a good chance it doesn't come back. Something like that.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I think we're not prepared for this, right? No one's prepared for this, and everybody is not sure what's going to happen, right? So together, if we all work together, we'll benefit from it. And my last question to you before we let you go is, you've told us a fantastic entrepreneur story, like Michael said. I do have to say, we've interviewed, tons and tons of people, and you were very detailed, and it was like as if I was watching a documentary about you.
Yeah.
And I know some people who do documentaries. Maybe we'll talk after. But
okay.
Would you do this? So the question I always ask entrepreneurs are, especially ones that have failed and have, went through many obstacles, would you do this all over again?
Do I get to take my learnings with me or no? I got to do it from scratch.
You do it from scratch. Yeah.
I do it again. I would.
Yeah.
But I just feel like it's so much of the stuff now. You're like, God, that was so avoidable, but I just didn't know.
Yeah.
It's my fault.
You don't know. That's all part of the journey. That's why I think entrepreneurship is as much about starting a business and making money and all this stuff as it is just learning about yourself and life and understanding who you are and how the world works and just how to solve problems in the right way, and get directly to the point rather than kind of going this whole convoluted way of doing stuff. So it's a tricky thing, but it's a journey, and there's no other way to do it. Other than, just going through it, and trial and error is so much of it. But yeah, I mean, once I learned, that's why, why I started Entre and all of this is because when I got into it, I was like, starting a business isn't that hard, right? It's actually pretty easy. The hard part is actually building a company and making real money and making it something that lasts for years and years to come. But there's so much fear and anxiety that people have over just starting, and there wasn't a community for people to come into and ask questions and find mentors and co-founders easier. So that's a big part of what we're building here. Giving people a sense of community and, feeling like they're part of something. So yeah, I love it, man. I absolutely love this. Thank you for coming on. We did have another question come through here right at the end, from Otto. Any recommendations on how you would compensate college ambassadors? Would you just give them products? Would you give them just make it a reward based thing with if they got X amount of people, then they could get some money, or how would you structure that?
So I would think of it in terms of levels. So the first level, you're part of the community. So what do you have to do to earn your keep there? Like, oh, you're in a Facebook group. Did you do a post on social?
Yeah.
Did you add one member to the group? Like, you got to do something to like go beyond just being on an email list to like earning your way into a community. The reward there should just be that you're in the community. So, and then the next level is got some level of swag associated with it. And maybe that's like,
Sure.
Yeah, shirt, hydro flask,
Something.
you know, if you really want to crush it, do a unique item that is in limited supply and make it competitive to get it. Like, especially college people, college aged people are highly receptive to limited run swag. Look, you're not Justin Bieber, so you're not going to like just
like the new Yeezys or something.
Yeah, like you might, yeah,
Or
they're
Joy
play around with
AirPods
it.
Pro.
Yeah, or like the AirPods are engraved, or you've got a specific sweatshirt that's got a design on it that matched something unique to the company. And like, look, they're not going to cherish this thing for their whole life, but it's something that they get that somebody else doesn't get. And then when those people get it, you take their picture and share it with everybody else. And like, now they're stars. Now they feel good. Now they're going to put that on social maybe.
Right.
And then the next level up actually should probably be paid. If you've got people doing real work and it's like really valuable, and think of it like an internship. Like, these are your creme de la creme earning in actual internships.
Yeah.
And then it's whatever whatever you can afford.
Nice.
Fantastic. I think that's all the question. I don't see any more coming in, but that pretty much wraps it up. Jimmy, anything else you wanted to add?
No, this is great, Brian. Thank you again for your time. You were fantastic. Really
Thank you,
appreciate
guys.
all the great insight, and we wish you, be safe and healthy, and we'd love to stay in touch. And thank you for joining our network on this.
My pleasure. It was a blast. Anything I can do to help. I put my LinkedIn up at the beginning on the comments, so if people want to shoot me a message, if there's anything I can do to help, let me know.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
likewise. Make sure you guys all drop in your emails or LinkedIn's or whatever, so we can all stay connected. I'm going to drop in also the link for the event tomorrow night, like Jimmy mentioned at the beginning. And it's kind of funny that, Brian, you know Dawn too, but she's done multiple $1 million equity crowdfunding campaigns, and she's raised a good amount of money. So we're going to dive into how she set up these campaigns. She has one that's like active right now that I think last time I checked, she was over 250K, and she's just getting going. So it's going to be a really cool event. I would love for, all you guys to check it out. And just let us know if there's anything too, like anything that you guys need help with, any introductions that we can make. We're talking with a lot of investors and people all the time. So we can make introductions for people as well. And we have our pitch competition coming up. So if anyone's interested in applying for that, check it out. We're going to give away some cash, and it's going to be a lot of cool investors that are going to be judging it. So I think that's pretty much it. Brian, thank you so much. That was awesome, man.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. Have an awesome night.
See you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.